All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you for braving the storm and the snow and the cold weather. See a few new faces. That's great. Welcome. See some regular faces as well. So, Mr. John Woodard is the Assistant Director of the Tennessee Small Business Development Center. We're really glad to have him here today. As we have kind of prefaced at our last pop-up class, this is basically going to take you all from the business model canvas and move you towards what you need to do next. So I'll let him talk all about that. Before we start, what I think we'll do is, so that John can have as much time as possible and to get you all back home, let's do our after meeting first. So I just have a couple things. So one, if you haven't been to the Facebook group and you haven't read my long post, make sure that you do that. We are going to send out an email that has a summary. We'll be sending that out probably tomorrow, but I want to remind you all, please do go to the Facebook group because that is the main area for all communication. So with that said, do you all have any questions? We're going to be competing very, very soon. So make sure you're looking at the Facebook group. There's a long post. I'll make it pinned tonight. I wanted to pin his date first, and then I'll unpin it, and then I will highlight and pin I will pin the long post, and it's got everything all the way up until April that you need to know right now. Are there any questions, concerns, comments, praise, etc. before we get into John's? Everybody's doing good? Starting to feel it just a little bit? It's going to be here before we know it. I'm really excited. Who's excited? Everybody's excited? Everybody but this guy. I'm just messing with you. All right, well, also I wanted to introduce Lamora. If you have not seen the post about that on Facebook, this is Lamora. Lamora is entrepreneurship intern with us here in the iCube for this semester. We're really glad to have her here. Lamora is not in the competition. Lamora is a full-on intern for me and the entrepreneurship program. So anytime you all see anything from Lamora, consider it official. It is the gospel of the competition. So I brought her on for many reasons. One of those is to help me get a little bit better handle on our communications, social media, et cetera, et cetera. Lamora is a longtime entrepreneur, so if you all have any questions that maybe you don't want to ask me, wanted to ask somebody else, feel free to ask her. You can ask her on the Facebook group. We'll also be sending out an email. The email will come from my email address, but we're going to put her email address in the body of that as well, so you can feel free to respond to her, or you can respond to me. So either way, but again, anything that you all see on the Facebook group, watch for me, watch for Lamora. Either one of us is 100% official, so we're all good with that. So thank you, Lamora, very much for coming on board. I really appreciate it. Any questions, comments, anything before we get started?
I forgot prototype.
Right. Okay. Yes. So we have made available as of yesterday. We have the prototype awards. The prototype awards are basically funds up to $200 that will go to reimburse you for any cost that you may encounter. Do you have to create a prototype? No, absolutely not. But if you do decide to create a prototype and you encounter some expenses along the way, you can fill this form out for the next week. Give us a justification of why you need some reimbursement. We will take that into consideration, and we very well may award you up to $200 for reimbursement. Again, that would be for development of the prototype, perhaps some travel, things that basically anything but food and alcohol can get reimbursed. Do not submit anything for food and alcohol. Don't hide it somewhere. All right. We need to know. We need to be able to know everything that you're reimbursing. So you'll see the form. Just fill it out to the best of your ability. It's very simple. Just tell us what your budget is, and then just give us a justification. Again, you can find that form on the Facebook page. All right. You can also find it on the tentech.edu/EdenWorks page, but I'm pretty sure nobody really goes there, but it is there. Are there any questions? All right, so again, that's up to $200. Not everybody will get awarded it, but we will evaluate. There are limited funds, but we do have 42 teams. So just FYI, so it would be good if you do want some kind of reimbursement and feel that it is a reimbursable thing, to go ahead and fill that out. Again, there's no guarantee that you will be awarded it. We are making it fair for everybody. You have until next Monday to fill it out, okay? Just because it's first come does not mean it's first served. We are going to evaluate each and every individual request. Cool. Anything else? Good to go? All right, well, very good. Well, again, thank you all so much for being here. John, take it away.
You got it.
Thanks.
Well, first, thanks, Michael, for having me out. I really do appreciate it. It's not every day that I get to be in front of a group of young entrepreneurs. Usually the folks I talk to are a little bit beyond the college age or older. And so it's good to be out. It's good to be here and talk about GrowthWheel and the process. And basically, what I'm going to try to accomplish tonight is teaching you guys a little bit about how the tool works, in addition to letting you know that we're here, what we do, and what our resources are that are available. So we're going to talk about GrowthWheel tonight, and we're going to talk a little bit about the center first, just so you guys are familiar with what we do and how we work. Ultimately, by the time that I leave here, I hope to have some feedback from you guys as to where you are, what you have done with your prototypes, projects, things of that nature, and then try to figure out, what we can do to help you if there is something we can do. So we definitely want to do that. So we're kind of tonight taking a sort of piggyback on Jeff Brown and the presentation that you guys heard before about the business model canvas. And so basically what we're doing is we're going to show you how this tool that we have at our center can actually help you quickly fill that in and get going on that part of the process. So as far as our center goes, we're part of a statewide network. There are 15 centers across the state, each one based inside of a higher education institution, Tennessee Tech being one, but you see we're scattered all across the state. So our network works together with all the different counselors at each center to try to help the entrepreneurs in the state of Tennessee. We are the official program as far as the government is concerned for helping small businesses. So we work with startups and existing businesses, and I'm going to spend, of course, the majority of tonight talking about startups and launching and things of that nature. We've got business counselors all across the state with various backgrounds. There's about 50 business counselors across the state. Everybody has experience in different items. Mine is in IT. My boss, hers is in social media strategy and marketing and things of that nature. And then across the state, we have everybody from production and manufacturing to just basically pretty much anything you can think of as a business-related topic. We have a counselor across the state that has some type of experience. The nice thing about our network is that we do work together. So if I have a case and I don't have experience in that, I can get with a counselor in the network that does and make sure a person gets assisted. For the network, 2015 results so far that we've calculated. Last year we spent the majority of our time helping folks get capital and receive training. So we generated about $80 million worth of capital for the state of Tennessee, their entrepreneurs last year. We created about 1,000 jobs, a little over 1,000 jobs, and a little over 1,000 jobs that were jobs that we helped save. And we trained a little bit under 15,000 people last year through our center. Now, in total, we assisted about 3,446 businesses. And I just want to give you this information so that you kind of get an idea of, the network and the fact that we do generate results and lots of results across the state. Here locally, you've got 3 representatives that serve you and the Tennessee Tech students here at the campus. You've got our director, Jen D'Angelo, myself, and then Brandon Brown down there on the end. And we all have different specialties within the office, and we all focus on different things. But ultimately, our goal is to help everybody get the assistance that they're seeking, whatever way we can. With that being said, last year we generated about $10 million, over the past, whoa, that's a little high. Over the past 4 years, we've generated about $10 million in the area, and we've trained about 11,000 people. Last year's numbers, which are still being tabulated, the training number was a little bit close. It's about 3,000. So we trained about 3,000, 4,000 people every year. And last year's capital infusion number was about 3.5 million. So we spend a lot of time out there trying to make sure that entrepreneurs, again, get access to that capital they need. And if you're a startup, helping you find the ways in which you might get funding, whether that's through a venture capitalist or a loan or whatever it might be that you want to do. So how do we help? We help in 3 ways. The first way we help is with counseling. So we do that one-to-one or group. So with you guys in the competition, you can either send one rep in to meet with us to talk about all the things related to your project, or you can have your whole group come over. Big question that's probably, it is on here. A big question that you guys might be wondering is, do you charge anything at all? The answer is no, it's free and it's completely confidential. So you don't owe us any money. All you have to do really is just submit a formal request for counseling, which we have a simple form you fill out, and that's it. And then based on that, we start working with you. We start to try to get everything put together as quickly as we can to kind of help you guys. Now, with the EagleWorks competition, we are going to explore and probably offer special, sort of, I guess what you would call speed counseling sessions. So, outside of our normal range of appointments and the time it would take you to get in, because we do see a lot of people, we're going to try to offer some special ones for EagleWorks so you guys can get in there faster. And we want to get you guys completely wrapped up with what we could be able to help you with by the end of February, which is when it's due. So that's kind of our goal, and hopefully we can help you achieve that. But you do get a personalized counselor, and it's something where after EagleWorks, if your company or your idea decides to launch and become an actual company, we're there for you. And we can stay with you for as long as you need us. We have some clients that have been with us for the 30 years we've been in existence. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. We can always be there, and we always can help with different problems that you may be having over the life of your business. And then the other thing that we do is training. If any of you have ever seen me at all, you've probably seen me at a training event. We do, and we actually have one going on tonight simultaneous to this. One-to-one and group as well. Tonight's is a webinar on actually starting a business and what it takes to do that. And everything we do training-wise is either free or low cost. So you can sign up for a training. Most all of the ones we offer here are free for all TTU students, no matter what the seminar is at this particular time. The rule that we're using is if you're a TTU student, it's free. So you can come to any training seminar that we offer and benefit from that because you are a TTU student. It's a benefit we're willing to give you as much as we can. All right. So that's the little ditty about us. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that because you guys can ask me questions about it later. But I do want to talk about GrowthWheel. That's what I'm here for tonight, so let's get started talking about that. And so here's kind of what you need to know. At first, the thing that you need to know is that GrowthWheel is a simple visual way to look at basically all the challenges that face you and your business and your product and what you're trying to do. And the thing that's unique about GrowthWheel is it's one of the few processes that we actually have that it applies no matter what we're looking at to every business. So it doesn't matter what it is that we're looking at, what size business. You could have 500, 1,000, 10,000 employees, or just one. The process is completely the same, and the tool works no matter the situation, which is really unique. It's not often that you run into a lot of tools like that. So we can look at all industries. Every single industry can be assisted by GrowthWheel. It's not one size fits all, or sorry, it's not a one size fits all situation, but it's also not limited to certain industries. We do all life stages. You can benefit from it at any particular time in the startup phase, all the way up until getting ready to maybe sell your business off or sell your idea out, things like that. So there are 4 challenges that we've kind of uniquely identified out of GrowthWheel, and that's how we split the wheel up. So these 4 challenges, when you see them, they're no surprise to any of you. It's not anything that's going to be like, whoa, that's a groundbreaking. But the way in which we break things up is groundbreaking, and that's what makes it different and makes it easier to look at. So here's your 4 challenges that you're always faced with when you're trying to take a product and launch with it, or a service and launch with it. You've got to come up with an attractive business concept. You've got to get people involved, people wanting to take part in it, whatever your prototype is, whatever your idea is. You're trying to get people interested in it. Beyond that, you're looking to build lasting customer relations. So you might start with this product and then later down the road have another product, and you want those customers to stay with you. So if you look at a company, for instance, like Amazon, the fact that you could buy products online was new when they first came out. For you guys, it's just like commonplace now, but I remember when it launched, it was a big deal because no one really had an online marketplace like that. And Amazon focuses heavily on lasting customer relationships. They want you to keep coming back. They want to reward you or encourage you by sending out email newsletters and say, hey, here's some recent products that have come out or that we think you might be interested in, or we're having a sale. That's why they do the gold box deals that keeps people interested and they keep coming back for it. Beyond that, you want to make sure that you create a strong organization. So your company has strong mechanisms for accomplishing the job that needs to be accomplished. And that's one of those things where you're looking at all the different aspects from your business processes to really and truthfully kind of how you go about a lot of the organization as a whole and kind of forming things. And then profitable operations. I mean, with Amazon, it didn't make a lot of sense after they started to really grow to have one location where everything got shipped out of. You started to see them open distribution centers everywhere. It helps speed up shipping time and it helps decrease cost. And so these are always the 4 challenges that businesses are facing. And no matter really what idea you present or what problem you present, your problem's going to fall into one of these 4 sectors. And then beyond that, each of these 4 sectors is broken down a little bit further. Okay? So that is what is so unique about GrowthWheel, is that it gives you that 360-degree approach to looking at things. So no matter where you are in the middle of your business, if you look around, you're always in one of those circles. It's just a matter of figuring out which one you're in and how we kind of go about addressing it. So again, just kind of looking at the circle again, we're breaking it down into these 4 sectors. And if we look at it a little bit further, if we take a look at the business externally, that's usually going to be, okay, how does it look to everyone else? Is it an attractive business concept? And does it create lasting customer relations? And then if we flip the circle around and do an internal focus, do we have a strong organization? Have we created profitable operations, or are there things we need to focus on? Flipping that circle around again, we might look at it this way, half and half. Business design focus, if you're focused completely on business design, you're going to look at that concept and how you've organized the business. See, the circle's kind of neat like this. And then on the opposite side, business development focus, when we split that circle again, lasting customer relations and profitable operations. So the circle can be split multiple ways, looking at multiple things, which sounds really creative and innovative, but it's actually just commonplace information when you kind of get into it. So, but taking those 4 sectors is not enough, okay? We've got to go further. We have to go into what we call our 20 focus areas, okay? So we break the wheel down like this. There are actually 20 focus areas, 5 in each one of your 4 color sectors, that basically every single problem you have falls into. Somewhere or another, your problem falls into a smaller focus area. And what we try to do with GrowthWheel is we're trying to determine what those focus areas are that are most important right now and how well you're doing in those. So here is the total wheel, okay? It's kind of small on the handout, and I apologize for that, but we'll kind of go through it in a bigger fashion here in a minute. But if we're looking at the wheel as a whole, you can see things in the business concept area like, okay, business idea, product portfolio, the revenue model, customer portfolio, market position. And we're going to see how GrowthWheel works in that sector. And then if we look over here at customer relations, things like networking, marketing, sales and service, those are things that, again, you're going to have challenges with that are in that particular sector. And then, of course, along the bottom of the wheel, you've got things in operations like the financials and funding for your business. And on the organization side, it's looking at employees and business processes and partnerships. There are a lot of things that we're going to talk about each sector kind of individually tonight, just a little bit. And I'm going to show you what GrowthWheel has in store to kind of help you get these things formulated for your business model canvas. Okay, so let's take a closer look inside each one of these sectors. And again, I don't think I said this yet. I'm very informal. Raise your hand, ask questions, do whatever. This is totally for you. So by all means, if you don't understand something or what have you, just ask. So sector 1, business concept. Inside of business concept, we've got those things like business idea, product portfolio, revenue model, customer portfolio, and market position. Okay, so in your particular idea, one of the things that you're going to be concerned with is your customer portfolio, okay? We're going to be looking at, with you, what is it, or who is it rather, that you're trying to target in this whole business concept. Who's your ideal customer? So one of the things we do in GrowthWheel is we actually break that down. We're going to give you a worksheet, so to speak, that you can use to easily kind of identify the things that you need to be looking for. So we take the customer segment, for instance. We can break down our different customer segments, who those people might be organized around those segments. Then figure out, okay, we've selected this segment, who are our top 5 customers in that segment? That way we get the information down quickly. You can spend hours and hours and hours working on a business plan, writing narratives, trying to do all of that work, and it may be meaningless if you didn't do the simplest parts of it up front, which are just identifying these things. And we do our best with the worksheets to make sure that you've got ideas for checklists. So for instance, when we're looking at segmentation criteria, let's look at geographic segments, okay? Where are we looking at with customers in terms of the market area? Is this something, I think I remember in one of the videos from earlier, somebody saying about working on some kind of like university parking system where basically it works with you to help you figure out what parking spots are available or something like that. That may have been one of the ideas some team was working on, I think. If that's the case, then that's going to be, the university segment would be one whole segment. But that's not the only segment that's out there. For instance, you might look at parking garage facilities. It's the same difference. Students want to find where there's parking at. People that live in cities want to find where there's parking at. You know, so you've got different segment groups that you can target, but each segment beyond that is going to have a set of needs and requirements that you're going to have to meet. But the important thing at the moment is figuring out who's the most attractive to go after. You go after all your segments if you wanted to, but you may be wasting a lot of your resources. And I think one of the important things that I think if you've had the time to go through the book, the Lean Startup, you know that it's very important up front to fail and fail fast. You know, so figure out which one of your segments are the most attractive, which ones have the most money to spend on this right now. For instance, tech might be one of those universities that takes advantage of that particular project that we were talking about because they're building a parking lot over here. So it would be easy to implement it now versus later. It just depends on how that solution works. But that's something to kind of look at. And one of these things that that you get out of GrowthWheel are these worksheets. You get the access to defining that in combination with us and what we kind of bring to the table, giving you these external ideas to be thinking about. Now, so beyond that, GrowthWheel is taking a step to help you make decisions. So going back on this worksheet for a second, if I find a segment, okay, then I say, all right, universities seem to be a segment I need to work on. And I have 5 universities I think I can do that with. What do I need to do next? Okay, well, we need you to make some decisions. One of those decisions is I need to conduct research with that university to find out whether or not they'd be interested in something like this, okay? So you make a call, you find out who's in charge of it, you find out if they have money to spend on it, if they're interested in it, boom, you got a contact. You made a decision and you took action. So much of what happens in the launch phase is people identify all these things they need to do, but they fail to take action. And that's where we see people never really get off the ground with their idea. And so it's important with this to identify not just that action, but you've got actions you need to take in 30 days, 60 days, and 90-day increments. That's really the best way to do it. Trying to keep yourself focused and motivated and keeping things reasonable. So in that segment, again, you find the university, you make a call, you find out they want to invest in, or explore investing in that product. What's the next thing you do? You make a decision to set up a meeting, and you take action by setting up that meeting, and you go and you do that. And you keep that process sort of going over and over again, making decisions, taking actions, with the goal of achieving whatever it is that you're wanting to achieve. And that's something that you kind of have to realize is it's nice to set all these goals and try to invent something that may change the world, but if you never take the steps to put it in anyone's hands, then it's not going to make any difference to the world whatsoever. So it's kind of something to keep in mind. So, we roll on down and we look at organization. One of the things we're going to look at in organization is business processes. A lot of the stuff you're coming up with is either going to have to be manufactured or assembled in some way, shape, or form, or you're going to have to figure out, if you're writing code for software or something like that, what are the processes that code goes through. And so we have a sheet, again, for that kind of lays this out. I have a binder about this big I can bring, but I'm not going to go through that with you. The goal that I have is as a certified advisor to go through the process of identifying what works for you right now and get you to take care of those things as opposed to trying to target every single thing that you might think is an issue. So what's important in process documentation is to actually lay out the process in whole, okay? What is the activity, what are the sub-activities, and what goes into each process, and then from there, what phases does it go into? If I am someone who is trying to show an investor that they should invest in my product, you have to be able to break down the phases in which that whole process occurs. Now, you don't need to do that in full detail, like they don't need to know that you wrote 58 lines of code to make this happen and 48 lines were written for that. We don't need to get into that, that's too detailed. But what we do need to try to do is to explain the simple phases that every single product goes through to bring to life, so that they understand why it takes so much money to produce that, as well as if we look at this sheet and we go, okay, this doesn't make any sense, why does it take this long to make this happen? Do we need that phase? Can we cut that phase? Can we streamline things? That may be the important thing that you gain out of this, just writing down the processes. And in turn, you may identify better workflow, you may identify key activities and routines that are necessary that may, extend across multiple products or processes. So if you have things like that you identify, come up across multiple products, then maybe you can streamline it and say, okay, we can use this same process over and over again. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. Or we can increase our production time because it's the same process, just a different product we're working with. So that's kind of a neat thing to look at. We're always looking for those challenges that are out there, because you're going to encounter them as a business owner or an inventor or anything like that. There's always going to be something you come in front of. And beyond that, you've got to figure out what's going to get in your way, okay? A challenge is just something that's hard. That doesn't mean that it's going to have anything that gets in your way. You're going to have barriers. It might be money, it might be location, it might be access to resources. All of those things and more are going to be things that you really have to get into when you're going through this sort of growth wheel process, and we kind of identify those things. Now, if we look at the customer relations wheel, you'll notice that we've got things like networking, marketing, sales and service, communications and PR, and branding in here. Any problem that you think of is going to fit into one of these segments if it relates anything at all with customer relations. 3/4, if not all of this, actually I would say all of this, Michael's an expert in. So he's got the green, section covered of the wheel. He's ready to go. Networking, marketing, customer service, sales, and all that jazz. Michael's just natural born for that, and that's something that's good, but you as an entrepreneur may not have. So you may have on the wheel more work to do here than he would have with a product or a service or something like that. In this particular area, one of the things I wanted to kind of highlight was marketing, okay? So many of you guys are going to have to think about marketing, whether you're in business, the business half or the engineering half of the team. I don't know where you are, but marketing is going to be a part of it. And I know one of the things that you have to do is you have to pitch your idea. So again, we have a sheet that actually goes through the elevator pitch. And the sheets, again, are not something that you get that is supposed to be your be-all, end-all fix. But it's supposed to help you get your mind going and your ideas going and give you some guided thought where you wouldn't otherwise have any. Because I would say that any of you who've done any research whatsoever, any type of article you've read by somebody who said I was an entrepreneur or I've opened my own business or whatever, there's not a book, there's not a guide, one particular instance of anything that will tell you how to do it. Everybody's experience is completely different and unique, and that's what is so important to recognize is while it's all unique, there are commonalities among each. So when we look at the elevator pitch, for instance, we look at figuring out, okay, who are we pitching to and who are we? So who are we? We are person blah, 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 blah. Our clients include blah, 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 blah. The reason why we do this is because blah, 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 blah. That covers that part of the pitch. Then what? We help our clients do this. Our product and services are this. Our products are characterized by this. Then you're gonna identify the why and the how. We take all this information, things out loud, and you start listening to them. And then we formulate that actual elevator pitch. What's most effective? What captures minds and opinions and eyes and thoughts? And people really pay attention when you say it. You know, if I walk in and I say, "Hi, I'm John Woodard, I'm the Assistant Director for the Small Business Development Center at Tennessee Tech," that means pretty much nothing to you, other than you know my name and you know maybe what my title is, and you might have actually caught what I do, where I work at. You definitely don't know what I do, and so that's when you have to kind of go backwards and say, okay, hi, I'm John Woodard. I work with small business owners every day to either help them grow their business or start their first business. And through that process, you know, we really try to help people grow in their understanding of entrepreneurship and ultimately, hopefully become a better business owner because of it. I give you that, you know more. You don't care what my title is, you don't care who I work for. The point is you understand what I do, and that's what makes a difference. So when you make a pitch, it's so important to identify which of these areas are really what's important and which aren't, which is why we have these areas here where you actually put them in order. Okay, this sounds the best, like you can rank them basically. And then we formulate that elevator pitch, and that's what's so key there. The pitch is maybe all you're going to have to sell. You may have 5 minutes or less. Sometimes if it's a true elevator speech, you got as long as the elevator gets up. If you were stuck in an elevator, which if you're stuck in Johnson Hall, it might take a hot minute. So you got some time to talk. Okay, so finally, one of the things that GrowthWheel helps us do is get new inspiration. Because we're having this conversation, and because we're doing this on paper as opposed to just running thoughts out through our head, we have the opportunity to kind of explore some things and throw down ideas that we might not also think about. The other thing that's neat is GrowthWheel is one of those things that we do individually with clients, and we also do workshops with them as well. So you could be in a room with a bunch of random people, not competitors, because we don't do that, so we won't do that for EagleWorks, because that would be a little weird. To be like, oh yeah, let's get with all your competition and talk about great ideas. So if we don't do that, then, if we are in the process of doing that, it really gives you the opportunity to bounce ideas off tons of different people in different businesses. If we don't do that, then you're in the room with us and we're giving you what we normally see every day and trying to help you figure out, okay, what's the best way to effectively say what you're wanting to say. And that's what's so critical there. So then if we look at operations, okay, which is where we make money. This whole part of the wheel is all about making money. You've got your financials, you've got your funding, you've got your production and deliveries, your IT systems, and your facilities. Again, things are going to fit inside here, whatever it may be. We're going to look at IT systems because I think that might be important to some of the prototypes or projects that may be out there. You may have something that has underlying back-end stuff that needs to occur. So if we look at a software platform, we might be trying to look for ways to improve basically our software operations. So if we're operating a business and we're trying to decide and select the software that's going to help. Okay, you don't necessarily in systems development, it does not have to be your own. You may be using supportive services that may help feed some information in, and you need to be able to identify those. So we look in each area of the wheel, as you can see here in the colors, and we go, okay, these are some common tasks that people do when they're operating a business. What software might we implement? How much is that useful to us? And then what are our expected costs? And will we need to be trained on it? So for instance, if we look at idea development, okay, one of the things you might be doing with idea development is you might actually be using a software like MindMaster, which allows you to basically throw up a mind map on a wall, digitally in a computer, and put a central idea here and then start throwing off all these offshoots of things that you want to do or things that need to be taken care of. It's a really neat piece of software. We recommend it to a lot of folks. And education gets a discount. I think students get it for free. So, but anyway, it allows you to do that, but then collaborate with other individuals as well. So you say, okay, this is the software. How useful is that? If you've got a lot of moving pieces in your puzzle, That may be very useful. If your product's pretty basic and simple and you don't feel like you have a lot of things to take care of, then it might not be that useful to you. Expected cost, as students, I think it's free, so there aren't any. And will you need training? Yeah, you probably will need a slight bit, but not much, and they have all the online videos, so you can go through it. Flip over, if we went over here to organization, for instance, and we said salary administration, how are you going to pay your employees once you get started? It's not important right now, because you're just trying to launch, right? But I can assure you, salary will come up at some point, so we'll payroll. When it does, you might be throwing out software like QuickBooks or Xero or Peachtree. And then you have to say, okay, do I really need that or not? Depends on the size of the company. If it's just one person or 2 people, maybe you can handle payroll. But if you start having more and more people come on board, then that may become more and more useful to you. And it's important to know that the worksheets you do now are not necessarily they're not going to have the same answers on them as if you do them, I don't know, 6 months from now after you get your product going. The answers may be totally different, because the important thing about a business is that it's a living, breathing thing, and it's constantly changing. So if you see that things are constantly changing and you take awareness of those things, that's what's so critical, and that's what's so important about GrowthWheel. So what does GrowthWheel do? GrowthWheel basically just gives us a good idea of what the big picture is. But the problem with getting a big idea or a good idea of the big picture is that no matter how good the idea is, it all looks pretty, but you can't do it all, okay? And we recognize that up front. And that's why it's not important to us that you do it all. I mean, you're in a special situation. You've got how many weeks until their stuff is due, Michael, for the business?
March 12th.
Yeah,
So,
not that long.
like, yeah, 3, 4, something like
You got a
that.
hot minute, basically. So if you got a hot minute to do some of this stuff, your timeline's a little rushed, right? So to speak. But we have a plan for that, and I'll share that with you in a minute. So all this looks lovely. You can't do it all. What do? Well, you do first things first. How do we figure out what first things first is, You take the building blocks, okay? Each one of these sectors is just a building block of a full puzzle. Each part is different. And that's one of the things that you're going to see, that we're going to do here in a second, is we're going to do something called a 360-degree screening, okay? This is the one part of the tool that's pretty neat. And basically what it does is we're going to use this basic worksheet to screen where you think you are with your ideas right now, okay? Or your group is where their project is. I'm going to walk you through how to do this in a second. But this gives us an idea. You'll find really quickly and that you are able to identify exactly what matters and what you need to focus on. Okay? So we're going to look at this entire map, and we're going to think about all this, and we're going to do that screening. And I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to really think about it, okay? Because the screening is super important. It kind of gives us a building block, and if you're going to end up working with this, it's the first thing you're going to bring in. If you have multiple people here from your group, that's great. If you don't, that's fine too. Just do one for where you think you are. So I'm going to go ahead and hand these out, and we're going to do this part. And then after this, I'm going to tell you how it applies to the business model canvas. Here we go. Okay. Alright, so here's what you're going to do. Okay? There are 3 types of screenings that we can do with GrowthWheel, okay? The type of screening that we're going to do for your groups today is assessing your progress, okay? You'll notice that down here in the bottom block. If you need a pen, I've got pens. Just let me know. Got some extras. Do you need one? No need one? Yeah, you need a sheet pen. Oh, I got it. You want? I think I tore off too, so take an extra. Alright, so we're doing assess your progress. So that's down here at the bottom, okay? Take a moment to read this block right down here. It's going to tell you how to start to color in the squares. I know this seems basic, but trust me, it does work. Read that section. Then I want you to start filling in your wheel, okay? And you're gonna notice that when you start filling in the wheel, the box at the bottom is gonna tell you how to start coloring in those wheels, okay? You come up with a progress or a method for kind of scoring your group, your project, what have you, and then go all the way around the wheel, okay? The ones that you get towards the, let's see, the ones that you get all the way towards the end, okay? Those are the ones that you're doing the best on. And the ones that are closest to the center of the circle are the ones you feel you're doing the worst on. And that's kind of how you go around. Once you do that, I'll tell you what to do next, okay? Just go ahead and take, we'll take about 10 minutes here or so and have you do your screening. An archaic thing and why people are steering away from it or what it is and you need to understand how to deal with it. We have articles on that too, and they're short, like 3 pages or less. You read it, you understand it, you move on. That's all that it is. And we have things that break down to, you know, your definitions of these kind of things. What do we mean by that? How does it work? So it's not just like, I'm gonna say, okay, here's this worksheet, do this worksheet, and you'll understand everything there is to know about marketing. If that were the case, then we'd all be marketers and there would be no need for anybody to be a marketer. It's not that simple. Every job has its own kind of description and solution and person that can assist. And so it's important not to undersell what's going on behind the scenes for each part of the business. Now, that's GrowthWheel in a nutshell. It's not everything. You can only do so much in an hour. And I appreciate the hour. That's not a slot
We appreciate
in any way,
the hour.
shape, or form. But there's so much more to it than this, and it's something where part of what I want to do with you guys is take questions first, if you have them, okay? Then after that, as shy of a bunch as you seem to be, I want to see if I can get you to chat with me at least a little bit about what you're thinking in terms of could you use this, what's your availability, how do we fit that in, because I know that we need to get you done before March, that's our goal. So that when it comes time to get the stuff to Michael, he's not chasing you down or beating you over the head with a stick or whatever manner he chooses to use to enforce whatever it is that he needs to enforce. So questions first, and I'll try to answer those, and then we'll kind of go from there. So hit me with your best shot.
Fire away, guys.
I have a question. Michael and I had talked about on the 23rd, having, if you were available to have one of those open, you know how you had sent on the Facebook page about on that Saturday about having an open meeting session. And we would love to have you come
Okay.
to help us on the 23rd if that was possible.
Give me just a second. When?
And around 5
Yeah, about
p.m.
5. We can,
Yeah.
we can do it in here, we can do it anywhere else,
Okay.
wherever.
Well,
Yeah, wherever
first,
works best with
let me
you.
tell you where I'll do it, if we're gonna do it.
Okay.
If we do it, we'll do it in 214A, because I
Okay.
have it reserved for that purpose.
Awesome, great,
And it's just like this, it's just these same tables.
even better.
It's just bigger.
Sure,
So it
Perfect.
kind of gives us a little bit more room to kind of work around in.
I think that sounds great.
How much time?
That's for you.
It's really for you, because
Yeah, gotcha.
I
What do y'all think? Hour 2, something like that?
let me rephrase that. I shouldn't say that. How many people do you think are gonna be there?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I can accomplish all that. So let me tell you what I did
Okay.
pre this.
Yeah.
And then we can kind of work that out.
Yeah,
I have 214A from now, but you may run into, the way the sheets are done is that you may run into a special situation that is beyond what is normal. Then we have to address that. And so you may have extra sheets in the section. I didn't bring the binder just because it's so big and have to talk over here and all that stuff. But,
So there are sheets designed for special cases.
oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, there's a ton of resources. And that's the thing, is it's always being updated. We spend about $7-8 grand a year having access to these resources. So it's important for us, and this is new. You guys are the first ones to get access to this. Like, I haven't even launched this for our clients yet. So
GrowthWheel? Okay.
GrowthWheel, this is new for our center. Our network's been using it for a while. It's just something we finally invested in, and it's a great resource. Lots of power in it. It's just a matter of deploying it effectively with each person and making sure that you do what you need to do. And so much of this is digital, because we have PDFs, so I can, once you're a client and we're working together, I can email you PDFs. You can do screenings online, so you don't have to do all this. I took that slide out of here because I thought it was kind of redundant that we would do stuff online, but that's kind of the neatness of our center too, is that we're the only center in the state that actually houses the online center as well, which means we serve all 95 counties in the state of Tennessee online, in addition to the 9 counties we serve here locally on ground.
Y'all must have some good web developers.
Do we? I don't know. You would know. You know both of us, so that's about it. So yeah, it's busy to say the least, but we see a lot of people and have a lot of requests come through. Y'all saw the numbers, you know. So yeah, but there are a lot of sheets. There are a lot of sheets, and for me, it's being a certified advisor. It's making sure I stay up to date on those sheets and knowing which sheets solve which problems and all those kind of things. Which is why we took the time to get this broke down and send this out. You know, normally it's something we might do as a 16-hour course over a period, but it's something that right now we're just kind of getting started with. Other questions? That was a good question. Yep.
Okay, so when you're formulating your business plan,
Mm-hmm.
would it be wise to make sure that you hit all of these different points about your idea?
In some ways, yes, and in
I mean, I
some
know
ways,
some of them,
no.
it's since it's a startup, we haven't, some of them, like the facilities, for example, unless you're
Okay.
having an engineer
That's a good
project.
question. All right, so the thing about a business plan, and if you talk to me, I'd say probably 2 months ago, I would have been like, oh, I can't believe I said that. But now, the thing about a business plan is that it is an ancient way of looking at a business. And Michael knows this because just last year, the whole way I talked about all this was totally different. But it is an ancient way of looking at things because ultimately when you look at a business, you can take a business plan and it's a lot of narrative. And the narrative is there because that's what the funders want you to put in there and blah, 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 blah. Ultimately, a business plan has to tackle the problem of explaining to whoever's reading it what it is you want to do. The problem most entrepreneurs run into is they can't write really well in terms of explaining how they want to do it. And me having a conversation with you and explaining something, like for instance earlier when Michael was trying to teach you guys how to use the camera, him telling you how to do it versus him writing it down is 2 totally different concepts, And so when you write things down in a business plan, sitting there and trying to be passionate in words is hard to do. And having been a person who reads business plans most every day, it gets boring because it's the same stuff. And if you're fortunate enough, you'll see lots of template business plans, so you kind of already know what's been said because somebody already said that once. But then beyond that, that's kind of where you get hung up. So I think that with the screening tool, everything in here should be addressed in a business plan. Just maybe not as in depth as we address it in a worksheet. But when you talk about facilities, for a business plan, and much like this screening, facilities wouldn't necessarily have to mean what you have to have now, it'd be what you're going to have. Are you going to have a special place with like a 3D printer or things like that in it? What needs to be in those facilities to bring this to life? Because ultimately, you're going to get there, right? Like that's the goal is, launch this thing and it becomes something and you ultimately take it off the ground. But I think what we learned last year and what I have learned throughout this process is that a business plan is somewhat of an ancient way to do things, and it is somewhat subjective in its usefulness. And so I think that while I still encourage people to do a business plan because it is nice to have it on paper, that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be in the format in which we once said, which is, have an executive summary, have a business description, have, a marketing plan and all those kind of things. Certain things are needed, but I don't know that the narratives of that really gave you any more information than you already had or didn't have, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other questions?
What would you say, like, what makes this more powerful than your average run-of-the-mill like problem-solving technique? Because that's all this is just a problem-solving technique. What makes this
Different.
the problem-solving technique?
Good question. Okay. A typical problem-solving technique is something that you go through on your own, right? You come up with your own method of problem solving. With that comes your own bias and your own opinions and your own conclusions. Similar to this, it's gonna have its own, right? The difference would be that most all of this has been tested, and most all of this has been used or comes from a global network of professionals who do this on a regular basis. So we know, for instance, 95% of this product was assembled by counselors from all over that were the best in their fields who know what they see on a regular basis. And they know the problems. So they're going to give you, in this product, you have ideas, you have methods for going about it, and you have solutions in some manner. Whether that be you have to learn how to do something better, or you realize that you didn't focus on something. So like when we go back and we look at, I think one of the great examples of answering that question would have been, back up here. One more. Okay, this, customer segments, okay? Normal problem solving, right? You would go, need to figure out my customer segments. And you would start going, okay, this is a customer segment, this is not a customer segment, this is a customer segment, this is not a customer segment. This process, identify me four, just four. That's all you're gonna identify. What happens if you have another one? Well, maybe that takes the place of another one. Or maybe you just need four. In most cases, what we find is that four is all people can come up with, four different segments. And then you have sub-segments underneath those that they get grouped into. So with a parking thing, you might have universities, parking garages, hospitals, and I don't know, businesses in general that have a parking garage or what have you. And then from there, you pick your sub-segments in that, you know, which ones are going to give you the most money, the most revenue, or going to be the most frequent customers. And you take those segments out. So it wasn't enough for you just to pick the segments. It was even more important for you to subset those segments down into a list of ones that you really want to tackle, and then create customers out of that, 5 customers from each one. The difference between problem solving, though, I think in a lot of ways, and this too, is the fact that usually in problem solving, you're just trying to solve the problem, but you don't go, I mean, that's what problem solving is, that was generic. But beyond that, okay, you don't make any decisions and take actions on them. You just solve your problem, like, okay, what were my customer segments? I figured that out. What do you do after that? The whole part of this process is, okay, if you fill in one circle, if you get one part of your segment, all right, up and going, there's always another one in here that needs to be worked on. And so this is not something we do once, like this evaluation is not something we're going to do once. It's something we do again, and we check it again and again, because in business, it's not like every problem is ever completely solved. It just takes a back burner and goes to another. And at least for my job, and I'm sure with Michael's too, a lot of your time is spent, dealing with fire, okay? Which fire am I putting out today? Which one gets wait till tomorrow? And so on and so forth. And that's kind of what this looks at is, okay, where am I at? Let's look at it again. And we usually do these evaluations. Sometimes we do them weekly, sometimes we do them every 2 weeks, sometimes we do them every month. It depends on the business and how quickly things are changing. For you guys, it may be as quick as every day. You know, as things are changing, your circle begins to fill in. And so I think with traditional problem solving, what you miss is that ability to go back and reevaluate because you think, okay, solved a problem. Now let's move on to the next one. But did you completely solve that problem? Does that make sense?
See,
Or where are you at with it?
what you're explaining does make sense.
Okay.
But it's just, I'd have to look at all the other worksheets to form an opinion, but just from the worksheets that I've seen, it seems like they're all laid out essentially the same way.
They're all laid out with an intuitive thought process behind
Well,
it, so
yeah,
if that makes sense.
the thought process that I see from each sheet is, you know, you find your problems, you find your underlying problem, you generate solutions, you rank your solutions, you pull the trigger on your best solution.
That's correct.
And every single sheet seems to be designed that way.
Yes, that would be totally correct.
And
in
that's my definition of traditional problem solving.
Gotcha, okay. So, and I think that if that is your definition, and you said it is, then they would be the same.
Okay.
In your tense, that would be it. What we normally see is people don't operate that way normally, so you would be a rarity in that case. People don't normally look for best options, people just look for the first option and they go for that. So when we think about the book like The Lean Startup, and he talks
What's it
about
called?
the Lean Startup, so that would be the Eric Rice book that they talked about a couple months ago for your all's class. We know what I'm talking about, some of y'all know what I'm talking about, okay.
I'm grabbing a copy here.
I think,
Yeah, and there's go to Facebook, there we took video of it.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
there's
it's
some,
business model canvas, it's
yeah,
a
it
lean
talks about
startup
the
method.
canvas and all that
Okay.
jazz. Okay, so in that book, the other questions. Okay, well, you can cut me if you need to cut me. Cause all I'm gonna do now is talk about cards and all that stuff, so we'll
Yeah.
just